I'm LA mayoral candidate Paul-E-Amori. Welcome back to another edition of Getting Candid with the candidates over coffee. Today I'll be speaking with fellow mayoral candidate Mitchell Schwartz. Now, Mitchell has worked behind the scenes on many campaigns, from President Obama to President Clinton, before deciding to run his own campaign for mayor of LA. What prompted you to go from running campaigns to starting one of your own?
Yeah, I never thought that I'd actually run for office, and I feel like I have the experience to do the job, I have the energy, and I'm not looking for anything out of this. I'm not looking to be a career politician or to feather my nest in some way. And what I see is a city that, in spite of a relatively good economy, is becoming hollowed out, that it's become really hard for regular folks, very few families, very few middle-class people. And a great city, to me, has all races, religions, socioeconomic folks. It can't just all be rich or poor, young or old. And I fear that's what's going to happen or is happening, and we need to reverse it quickly.
This is what I love about this race that's happening right now. People like yourselves, myself, are getting involved here and getting into this because they want to make a difference. They want to get involved and be the change that they want to see. And that sounds like exactly what you're doing.
I came here 21 years ago. I wasn't transferred here. I wasn't born here. This is a place I came to and I've come to love. And this is where I got married and raising my family. And it upsets me to see us sliding downhill a little bit with big signs of decay, record homelessness, and a city hall that seems a little bit removed from the regular citizens. That more and more it's just either developers or big donors or public employee unions or somebody else has the ear of City Hall. That's one of the biggest complaints I see all over the cities, people saying City Hall's just not listening to them.
So we end up with a city who is not paying attention, who doesn't know that there's an election happening.
People should be involved. I mean, first and foremost, it's not hard to find out when the election is. It's not hard to vote. The newspapers in this city have done a very, very poor job of covering it. And then the TV stations, they don't really examine the serious issues. And they used to have political reporters that would do a lot of coverage, but they pulled out of that too. So I blame the media for not covering it.
It's hard to be apathetic when you don't even know something's happening.
Right. Well, what I had hoped was, and I still hope, that all these demonstrations we see against Donald Trump or his actions, people seem much more energized by politics these days.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping that they'll realize, okay, vote. The first part of being a citizen is to vote.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping that this new fervor that seems to have seized a lot of people and a lot of political action, either demonstrating, writing letters, calling their representatives, I hope it has the effect of getting everybody more involved, and certainly more involved in the local elections. Turnout is exceptionally low. Yes. Exceptionally low. Now, we are moving our election cycle so that it'll be, the next election's June 2022.
So a 5.5 year
Five-and-a-half-year term the next mayor gets. And it will coincide with the governor's races, which should increase turnout. Yes. But of course, then we'll be competing with a bunch of other different races.
Of the other candidates, you've raised the most money opposite Garcetti's. What do you think about private money in campaigns, and where should candidates be getting their money to run?
I took a pledge that I'm not going to take developer money or money from PACs. And I had to return a bunch of money that I'd raised from some developers who were friends of mine and just gave me because we're friends. I want to serve the full 5.5-year term, pledge to do it, not run for office, not run for anything else. Second largest city deserves a full-time mayor.
I agree.
And then shut down the mayor's fund, which is something that the mayor uses as a way to kind of curry favor. So that's why you have the Walmart, the Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, all dumping money into that. Lastly, I said I won't raise money the first 3 years of the term. I want to remove any hint that my actions are due to the influence of money.
You're beholden only to the people.
That's it. So shut down every which way, any way that people could give me money. You don't need all this crazy money. And given the distrust in politics, I think it's really critical that we remove the influence of money as much as we can in political decision making.
I love this idea.
Maybe you don't agree with me on things, but it's not ever because somebody's giving me money or somebody's taking care of my future employment or whatever. You could just say, well, he did it, he's wrong, he's an idiot, but at least he's not a corrupt idiot. So I'd rather be an idiot than a corrupt idiot.
Fair enough. I'll shake hands with you on that.
Love an idiot. You can't love a corrupt idiot, but maybe you could love an idiot.
There you go.
I do believe in the campaign finance program that LA has, Los Angeles has. It's a good program. It limits the amount of money, which to me is one of the worst things in politics. The unlimited money in it has really helped corrupt it. And the fact that this mayor is part of that should tell you something about him.
It seems as if that by not showing up for this election, the more he doesn't show up, the more nobody knows that this election is happening.
But as a campaign strategy of just ignoring your opponents, as a former campaign manager, I would advocate the same. Like, why give us attention if the press isn't giving it to us? But it does hurt the city, of course, when there's not a true debate about the issues.
It hurts the democratic process.
I call it the politician's disease. Their number one desire is about staying in office or getting to higher office. That's much more important than doing the job. You won't take on these tough issues because you know you'll make enemies, which will hurt you in your future races.
I think that's a really amazing thing you're doing, and you've taken this pledge that you won't be focused on re-election. You'll be focused on doing the job.
The next mayor gets a 5.5-year term, and given what I want to do, which I want to disrupt the system, I want to disrupt the old boy network at City Hall, I want to change a lot of things, so we've got to restore trust in government. I've never seen it so low. I've never seen the cynicism. I'm not cynical, and I don't know if it's because I'm 56 and was born before Vietnam and Watergate, but I believe in the process. I believe when these politicians say things.
First and foremost, the constituents, the people. That has to be number one. Our own careers, our own, the lobbyists, the donors, the big business, that has to come after the people.
You're right, and that to me is what takes courage. Yeah. You know, to run for office, people say, wow, that takes courage. No, it doesn't. You know, it's a little bit because, you know, you hear some negative things about yourself from different people, so that's not fun. But maybe it does take some courage to stand up to all these people trying to get something from you or from City Hall that's not for the benefit of the people. And you have to have the courage to be unpopular.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about the environment. The environment is something you've been a big champion of for many years.
Growing up in Queens and Brooklyn, you didn't have a true appreciation of natural beauty. We didn't have mountains or hills or, you know, we had an ocean. And then when I started traveling after college, had a real appreciation for how beautiful this world is. And I think of how important it is just obviously to have fresh air and clean water, but also have places to hike, to swim. It's very fulfilling for people. It's something everyone needs. And
you're seeing that as having direct implication in Los Angeles, for instance, the Porter Ranch incident.
So Aliso Canyon had big leaks. Thousands, over 10,000 people had to move. Now they move back. They want to reopen it, which in my mind is crazy. They don't know what caused the leak. It should be shut down, period. And when they say there'll be energy shortages, I don't believe them. A report just came in yesterday that California has a big glut of electricity, too much electricity. It shouldn't be reopened. We should be at 100% green energy in this city very quickly, much quicker than they have plans to do.
I haven't heard too many of the candidates talk about the refineries around LA.
It's a horrible thing because a lot of them are near where people live. I support the group Stand LA, which is calling for a buffer between houses, parks, schools, whatever, and these drilling sites.
There's another issue, which is with some of the fracking that's going on locally.
Yeah, I mean, like in Oklahoma, there's tons of earthquakes happening because of it.
So they're speeding up earthquakes in places that don't normally have them. We already have them, so what's that going to do for us?
Well, it's a way to untap, I guess, vast gas and oil reserves, and still make a lot of money on gas and oil, unfortunately. But see, she hates it too. My dog Fluffy hates it too.
Fluffy for the environment. You and I have a lot of issues in common. There are in this election, there appear to be things that just every candidate is concerned with. Of course, homelessness is. We have our own ideas about it. I'm curious to hear what you think we need to do to solve homelessness.
So, to me, take a step back and say what caused the homeless problem. And to me, it's caused by our housing policies. We're not creating enough housing, and we're ripping out affordable housing and replacing it with luxury housing. So there are people that are just economically homeless. So we have to help them from the start not get evicted, have more housing so it's not too expensive. The voucher program and the Section 8 and other things, there's a fair amount of money, not enough, but a fair amount of money out there for housing, but because the rents are so high, they just can't afford it. By the way, we can get all the veterans homeless off the street right now. You could take care of them right away, get them off the street right away by putting them in the Veterans Affairs campus. The fact that it's not done is terrible.
I agree.
Terrible, terrible. Well, what do you think about this stuff? What kind of solutions do we have?
I'm very much housing. I believe that's the only way to go, that we have to get people off of the street. I believe that we have to just acknowledge there's a certain portion of people that are always going to just need help. And living in a city, That's one of the things, that's one of our responsibilities, is to help take care of those people who just need love.
I agree with you. I mean, and we're certainly a rich enough society that we could afford this. It's crazy that we don't.
Let's be honest here, it's costing the city more to not have these people in homes. It costs the city more to have people clogging the ERs, to have the police have to be the custodians of the homeless, than it does to actually give individuals housing.
Yeah, and they always say housing is cheaper than all the other things. Could it be incarceration or shelters or treatment and stuff? So of course we should be doing housing.
But what about HHH? I think we need to ratify how that money's being spent.
Here's my problem with it. I'm going to vote for it, but I have no faith in the elected leaders. They've helped cause the problem. They haven't done anything. Now it's campaign season. Everyone's rushing to put something on the ballot. A sales tax is the most regressive form of tax. So we're helping the poorest while hurting the poorest. I want to put the incentives in there for the private sector to do it, and then give subsidies to the homeless. So give the money for sure, but don't get in the business of building. And part of it is,
let the people who know how to do it best do it, bring them on board. So let's talk about housing. What are your ideas about how do we solve our housing shortage? I know you have a very ambitious idea that you can put 300,000 homes, or at least set the way to putting 300,000 houses back into the market. How would you go about doing that?
You could do it with the proper zoning and figuring out where do you want to do it with the proper incentives, expedite plans in certain areas where we want to have it. But the number one goal to me is that both the opponents of Measure S and the proponents of Measure S don't talk about is we have to create more housing units. It's the only way to deal with the shortage. It's the only way to deal with the crazy price increases.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
Are you yes on this?
I'm not knowing it. I share the sentiments of the people behind it, because the developers and the pay-to-play culture is just ruining the city. So I understand why they're doing it. But to me, what my plan will include some of the important things of Measure S, which is get rid of spot zoning and update these community plans right away. But I want my focus of the campaign to be on creating new units, because that's the only way we'll solve the housing shortage, or at least the affordable housing shortage, and reduce rents and also reduce homelessness.
One of my campaign issues is actually about trying to find the love again for the film industry.
And what do you think we could do? What should we?
I think there's a number of things that have to be done. We have to make our tax incentives competitive with the states and the countries that are luring production out. I think we have to greatly reduce the permitting restrictions. And then, of course, I do believe that the unions are making it more and more challenging as well. What are your thoughts on?
What I've been told from a top Hollywood person who I won't name, but a studio head told me that, look, I said, shouldn't we try for higher tax credits? He says, we had Schwarzenegger in there as governor and a Democratic legislature, and we couldn't get more done because people still think it's just going to rich people or rich Hollywood executives are making it.
Wow, there's so many people that support the film industry.
Like catering, parking, a million other things that are just... Yeah, a million great things, not just the actors and the directors who are making a ton of money. So I think you have to do more tax credits. Yes, you should work with the neighborhoods. Like in this neighborhood, they shoot a lot, but we have very clear rules, and most neighbors are pretty good about it, not abusing it. But yeah, that's a big one. That's our number one industry. We should be nurturing and protecting it.
We should find the love for film.
Find the love for it in a big way. Yeah, love them to death.
So what do you think? Do we need love in politics? Do we need love in our politics?
I think the country needs it. I think our politicians need it. And everyone's so polarized now. People are so quick to want to fight with you about stuff. I'm surprised that there's such a lack of civility.
You talk about love and finding the love, and then people are so angry,
Yeah. If you're doing things from a place of love, it's much different than if you're doing it from advancement or self-gain, whatever it is. Just anything in life, if you do it from if there's wrong motivations, it's not going to be as good. I always try to look at the issues and talk very seriously about what's wrong, what we could do better. And I feel it's coming from the right place, that I love this city. I
think your policies certainly express your love of the city.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
How do we spread the love? How do we make it so that people want to come from a place of warmth?
It feels really good when you come from love, when you come from an authentic, heartfelt place. It feels really good. I think people want to come from that place. We get lost in ego, we get lost in places of coming from need. If we use love as a tool and as a core value, it becomes, I like to say that love becomes your true north. It always points you in the right direction. And then, of course, the way we comport ourselves in a campaign. Here we are having a very civil discourse, even though we're running opposite each other. Shouldn't that be how it's done? shouldn't we be able to engage and say, you know what, Mitchell has some amazing ideas here that I would love to use.
And when it's done, you get behind the other person. Whoever wins, I'm going to support that person, and try to do what's best for the city. Yeah, for sure. People need to respect other people's opinions and listen a little more. And I'm just as guilty. I got to listen more.
Listening really helps. It's amazing what the power of listening does for people. And acknowledgement.
It shouldn't be a blood sport. It just shouldn't be. But it too often is.
How do we get people to love their local politics, right? Because we see, as you mentioned, so many people getting activated about what's happening in the national stage.
The local stuff impacts people more than the national stuff. Where you could live, your kid's education, the local jobs, transportation, traffic, crime, all these things you're felt with right at the local level. So they should be much more involved. But also on the national level, in Congress, the White House, it's become more and more polarized. And because of that, cities and states more and more are going to become laboratories for what you can do for progress and to show how government can work. So to me, it's more important than ever that people get involved in local elections and local politics.
You've done something that we've wanted to do but haven't effectively done yet, which is on your website, you basically created a leaderboard where issues could be voted up or down, getting Angelenos to actually talk to us about the issues they care about and how they think we can solve them best.
Right.
And so you've had a couple of issues that have sort of risen up to the top. So tell me a little bit about the workforce housing.
So right now, if there's a major attack or natural incident, earthquake, whatever it is that hits LA, where do the first responders come from? The stereotype is the police live in Simi Valley, the first responders live in the South Bay or somewhere like that, and that they don't live in the city of LA. So how are they going to get here? And are they going to come here? And so we're asking them to work in the city, but they got to commute an hour each way. And so all they do is work here. They don't really live here. They're not.
It does something different when you're invested in your community, and that's the community you're serving.
For sure. So I'm very for that.
Many people are concerned, are fearful about the immigration ban. And Garcetti has said, although he's been a little bit back and forth on this one.
With a guy like Trump, he grew up in Queens, I grew up in Queens. He's a bully. You got to make yourself very clear. There's no appeasing him. You can try to reason with him, but you also have to make very clear lines. Like, we are a sanctuary city, period.
And that is your stance?
Yes, 100%. First of all, there's been no new migration, net migration from Mexico and Latin America in the last 12 years. Since 2005, more people from Latin America and Mexico have left America than come in. Mexican Americans are assimilating, and every study shows that. But I don't blame the people that came over the border looking for a better life. I mean, we all know how hardworking the immigrant society is in this country.
Often doing jobs that people don't want.
So I got a couple questions for you, if I may. Turn the camera on you now.
I'm an open book.
Why this outfit, this specific thing? I really like it.
Thank you.
And then, what made you decide to run? What was the inspiration for the Love campaign?
Well, the outfits, I have to tell you, I get in the beautiful garment district of downtown LA. So supporting our fantastic, yes. The look and the man came before the campaign. The campaign came from this idea that we had created of this voting for love. It was just an idea. And as I was looking at this very bitter election cycle, even before we found our victor, the way that the candidates were interacting from the primaries and on, there was so little time spent on the issues. There was so much time spent on anger and division. I thought, man, if the world needs one thing now, it needs more love. And this idea of voting for love might be something that could actually really be practical. What would my heart do? So that's what it's become for me. And the more I've opened myself to love, the deeper it's gotten for me and the more profound.
So I have a song for your campaign.
Please.
What the world needs now
is love,
love, sweet love. I'm not the first one to tell you that, obviously.
No, you're not, but I know the song.
And are you enjoying the campaign?
It's been the great work of my life.
Wow.
To do this. I don't have to win for love to win. And that's how I truly feel.
Look, I hope you're successful in this. We could use a lot more of it in
right
campaigns, in the world, in every which way.
And how can people find out more about your campaign?
So please go to schwartzformayor.com, and I'll try to add a section on love by the time you get there.
I love it. Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.